All right, so next we are moving to the next section is to introduce Rob Morgan. Now, many of you obviously know Rob. He's one of our mentors, has been for some time, was a member in Inner Circle at its inception for up until about a year or so ago, I think it was, maybe 18 months ago. And also a business partner of mine. Rob invited me to join into his business maybe 5 years ago now, I think, probably.
Closer to 10.
Was it 10 years ago? Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun, as they say. Okay, so it was 10 years ago. I think I've known Rob for about 25 years, so 24 years or something. So that's incredible. He started off being the IT nerd, coming in, crawling under desks and stuff when you used to have like servers where every day I'd have to go in and pull out a hard drive, put it in my briefcase, in my bag, put another hard drive in to back up all our stuff, right? That's showing my age, right? That's how he set up all those systems and everything for us. But since then, and getting involved in nearly 10 years ago then, we've shifted that business from a Mr. Fix-It IT one to focusing primarily initially on the cloud-based softwares and things, and then in establishing the partnership, with Dave Jennings and his Systemology business as well, and that's seen the business grow from strength to strength with focusing on that systemisation. Because I know that Rob's always been one of those people that is very passionate about helping other people to grow and develop, very similar in line with me. And as I said at previous things about business partners, what is my normal saying? Don't do it, right? Well, Rob's one of those exceptions to the rule where I'm more than happy. And when we made that decision, when he offered that, and it took me about 18 months to accept his offer, I said, if at any point it affects our relationship, I'll give you the 10% of the shares back. Yeah. I'll give you them back. You can have them because the relationship's more important to me than the shares or the value. And so, yeah, it's been working really, really well since then, which is great. So, and since 1998, CloudKonnect, 25-year experience helping in IT industry, software solutions, and now sort of more automation and stuff around different systems and stuff as well. So if you want to talk about things like Zapier and other stuff like that, wherever Heidi went, you can chat to Rob about that as well. He'll be able to support. Now helps businesses start with the end in mind, from domains, website setup, getting emails and document tools up and running, to client nurturing and CRMs, creating proposals and contract to web-based phone systems, all of which together seamlessly take the pain out of technology and have a full business system that just works. Rob's passion to help people work anywhere, anytime, from any device by systemising their business, which allows the business owner the freedom to step away from the day-to-day of running their business so they can spend more time working on their business and building their freedom business. So again, it's very aligned. What Rob does and who he is and what he stands for is very aligned with me. Rob's role has now evolved to becoming certified systemologist, which means he can continue to focus on helping business owners systemise in an easy and simple way through the 12-week concierge program, which simply means that Rob is a personal concierge and he does all the hard work of documenting the systems as well. Now, we've had Rob and the team supporting my business now for a number of years, doing all of our systems. Nat is our systems champion and works with Rob to implement those as well, which definitely is, again, practicing what you preach, as they talk about, and making sure that we're utilising the same tools that we suggest you guys use as well. But it's a great framework, and so what I'd like to do is, if everyone could please give a massive round of applause to Rob Morgan up on the stage. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. How is everyone? Great. I love it up here. I'm in my zone because this is my natural environment to be talking about systems. So for me to be able to sit here and actually go away from a Zoom or a Google Meet session with one person and one company, but be able to share my knowledge around systems with everyone here in one go. And we can record it, we can talk about it, we can ask questions, because I want a lot of questions. I want this to be a bit of a workshop. Because Dave covered the theory behind systemology. Like, we all know what it is. I know it's like drinking water through a fire hose right now, because there's a lot of information. My role is to bring it down. Let's just settle down and just simplify it just a little bit, because I'm going to show you exactly what the first 3 stages of systemology means. But first, I'm going to share with you my inner circle journey. So as Sean mentioned, we met well over 20 years ago. He was coming down to my house with his guitar, singing and playing his guitar to my kids. My kids are now 24 and 26. All right, so we became best mates back then. We haven't stopped growing as friends, but I have continued to grow as a business owner and a better person. So I had an IT company since 1998. I used to go to Sean's office. I used to wait for him to just sign off my little job sheet every time I'd go into his office and fix the computers and do all of that. It grew. We developed a relationship and a friendship. But for me to be the first inner circle member meant that there was 3 of us working together. There was Stuart White and myself and Sean. So I would sit as a member, and I would talk through my little thing. We'd have a mastermind event, then I'd run over to the camera and turn it off and back on again, because you can only run it for like 90 minutes or 60 minutes, whatever it was, before you had to reset the camera. Then I'd sit back down again, and I was the member again, participating. So it was kind of like the Rob and Sean show, Sean doing all the stuff and me in the background doing all the techie bits, right? It grew. So there's then 5 businesses, then 10, then up to 100, right? Now here we are now. And we've all grown to learn what the inner circle process was. But my learning was every 90 days, I was doing a mastermind. So every 3 months, I'm like, marketing, let's keep working on marketing. Let's grow my IT support business. How do I do that? What does it feel like to just be that IT guy for the rest of my life? Every mastermind, I was moving further away from being that IT guy. I was like, what am I doing? I'm under desks. I'm charging by the hour. Like, there's only so many hours in the day. I can only have so many techs working with me and having so many cars driving around Sydney and Wollongong doing that stuff. So I decided to sell the business. So in 2018, I said, that's it, I'm done. I'm tapping out. I'm going to sell the IT business and focus on subscriptions. Subscriptions are easy. Sell Microsoft and Google and domain hosting and subscriptions. Do all that because that's passive income. I'm going to just do nothing. This is great. It lasted about 3 months. And I was like, oh, this is boring. Passive income. I got credit cards. I got money coming in every day, but not me doing anything. I wasn't doing anything for me. So then I was like, what do I want to do now? So my dad approached me and said, son, I want my business to be yours. And I went, great. What's your profit and loss? I don't know. Do you know what a balance sheet is? What's that? So do you have any contracts with any of your suppliers? He had a great business. He was selling spare parts for the big recycling companies around Australia. Handshake deals, Texas, big old Texas dude that my dad was, but one day that business is going to be mine. Right? So I thought, okay, my next mastermind, I'm taking over the family business. How am I going to do that? What's that going to feel like? And everyone in the table and mastermind is going, oh, family business, Rob, you're so passionate about it. This sounds like a great idea. Furthest away from IT support you could ever imagine. I'm like, yes, I'm going to do this. I started working with my dad. He's getting older, getting a little bit senile in his 80s. He's like, Dad, I need to understand the process of how do you buy the parts, and you're buying them from overseas, you're sending them across. How does that work? Well, you got to do this, and you buy that, and you sell that, and you make money, and you go and buy hay for the horses, and a trailer for this, and a tractor for that. I'm like, cool, that's not right. Something's missing. No business plan, no systems, right? I kept working with my dad to a point where he was so old and so senile that he couldn't remember the process anymore. I'm trying to record it. I'm trying to document it. I'm trying to write it all down. I couldn't work it out, right? My dad died in 2019. The business pretty much died with him. I tried for another year, working hard. So at the end of 2019, I was like, well, the family business isn't working. I sold the IT company. I'm doing subscriptions, which is kind of cool. What am I doing now? Den Lenny, who's part of our group, and I met Den through Sean. We're in Noosa having dinner at one of our events. And he goes, have you heard of Systemology? And I went, no. Dave Jennings? I went, no. He goes, get the book. I went, yeah, okay. So by the time we went to the next event, which was in the Hunter Valley, I remember listening to the Systemology book, audiobook, all the way to the drive from Sydney to Hunter Valley. My mastermind on the way there was like marketing for my subscription company and maybe looking at what I can do for my dad's business. And by the time I finished listening to the Systemology book, I completely shifted. My mastermind for that session is, I want to be a systemologist. Because what I didn't do for my dad, what he didn't do for his own business, I now want to fix that. But I want to do that for everyone else. I want to do that with every small business owner that I meet, is systemize their business so they don't have a business that dies with them, but they leave a legacy. So I sold my dad's business. That was easy, right? Because there wasn't much to sell. But I sold it anyway. Thanks to Sean, we worked out the best process in order to do that. Okay, so the Systemology approach came into my life. I read the book again. I went through it, and I'm like, that sounds like me. I'm totally OCD. I'm super organized. I love systems. I'm going to start doing it with my own business. Well, I went over wall. I went crazy. Not only did I systemize everything we were doing in the subscription model, but I was like, okay, to be a systemologist and working with businesses to actually systemize them, I'm going to write a system on that. So I was in the rabbit hole of writing a system for everything I was doing. So I presented that to Dave, and Dave was like, Who are you? Like, how do we bottle what you're doing? I said, let me just show you. All right, so I'm showing him how to systemize his own business as a systemologist, working as a consultant with systemology, systemizing businesses out there in the world, right? I focused on that. So that grew, and it grew, and it grew, and it continued to grow, and I got better and better and better at it until I started working with more businesses directly from Inner Circle, referrals, started working with them, just trying to systemize the business, going through it. They were starting to refer other businesses I was working with. So this is now 4 years. I've now helped systemize over 75 businesses, and those businesses that I've worked with have not looked back. Okay, Craig and Jody Mearns, you know Jody and Craig from Caliber Country. One of the events last year, like the second year into systemology, Craig came up to me and he hugged me. And he goes, Rob, you saved my business. And just quite frankly, you saved my marriage. And to be totally honest, I think you saved my life. Now, you can't get that sort of thank you from someone that you just fixed the computer. Hey, thanks, Rob, my computer's running great. And then 24 hours later, the computer doesn't boot up, I'm not paying that invoice, right? That was the dopamine hit I was getting for 25 years of my life. You can't unlearn systems. You can't unlearn a business that is now running on systems. So now here we are. I'm focusing on systemizing businesses, working closely with Dave. Dave mentioned that his mission is to remove the business owners worldwide of the day-to-day operations of running the business. You know what mine is right now? The same. But my immediate mission right now is to remove David Jennings from the day-to-day operations of running his business. I'm just following him. I watch him present. I go, ooh, I need to slow down. I need to be a bit more me. Just be a bit more, passionate about what I'm doing and take my time and do it right. Just learn from him. Everything I do in business, I learned from Sean. Before we met, I had no idea. I was running around fixing computers. Now I think about it, I'm very deliberate about everything I do with my business now, thanks to Sean and what I've learned through Inner Circle. So that's my journey up to this point right now. So Dave Jennings and Systemology have hired me as a consultant for them to now train and onboard every systemologist globally. So 50% of my time now is training them on how to be a systemologist running their systemology business. So I'm still consulting, but they just, as Dave said, I just want to bottle what you're doing, because whatever you're doing is perfect, is spot on. You're actually the side effect of what you're doing. The result of what you're doing is really helping business owners around the world. So if I've been dealing with Ireland and Scotland and London and Texas and Florida, like these systemologists all over the world are going, how do we do what you're doing? And I'm openly sharing that because, yes, the technology's there, it's super easy, but how do we, as business owners, start somewhere? So my goal today is to make it practical. So when we look at, I'm going to go to the first, we've seen this, right? It's on I think it's on the cover of the book, okay? What I want to cover today is a practical approach on the first three sessions of the circle, the 7 steps of systemology. We want to focus on the first 3, and that's it, because I want to get you guys to actually do it. Not just, learning about what the stage 1, the define, assign, extract. We're going to focus on just those 3 things today. The end result is that I want you to do one process today that you're going to record on your phone, and you're going to send it to me. Okay? So we're going to go through the whole critical client flow. We're going to go through the department roles. We're going to go through a systems assign sheet. It doesn't have to be on every single process. We just want to get those 3 things nailed. And I'm going to walk around the room and help you and guide you through that process of how to do that. Okay? But the goal is I want you to get your phone and hit record and actually talk through a process. Okay? Even if it's 30 seconds long, to a minute, minute and a half max. All right? That's it. Think of an overview. Why do we have this process? Why is this process important? That's it. Not the details, not the step-by-step on what the process is. Talk about a referral process. What's a referral process? It's when a client works with you, they've had a great experience, they go away, tell someone about it, and that person rings you and says, that person referred me to you. 15 seconds. That's your referral process. But I want you to record it. Because as Dave said with AI, I could take 3 bullet points from a process, or one sentence, one 10-second sentence, and run it through AI and give you a 20 bullet point standard operating procedure. That easy. Okay, so we're going to go through that process together. But we've got to start somewhere. So I've been lucky enough to get Steve Musket over there from Real Confidence to give me a hand today, because we've actually worked together, I think it was 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, we started the process. Ran through a CCF, ran through the DRTC, the systems assign sheet. In other words, we did all 7 steps, but we focused on the first 3 together. Okay, so We're going to do this together, so if you can get a mic to Steve, because this is going to be the starting point. And then I know this section here before we go on a break, because we're going to have another hour together. And that hour is going to be all of us working through it together. But I want to do it with Steve because we've completed it already. So as you mentioned, Heidi, about the dashboard, this is going to help because this helps you create the first step. So when you're thinking about collecting a single service or a product, think about a service or a product that you do every single day that you can do with your hands tied behind your back, blindfolded. Right? Why did you start being a builder? Why did you start? What was the first thing? A plumber, what was the first thing a plumber did? Why did they want to become a plumber? Think of the job or the service or the product that you want to focus on that you did the very first time that you know that you can do it easily, right? No bad news. It's not raining. It's all blue skies. Everything's a yes. It's the best client you've ever worked with, most profitable job you've ever done, and it's the most amazing experience you've ever had. That's what we want to start with. That's the service we want to pick. Think about the ideal client, the easiest job we've ever done. Because that MVS, that minimal viable systems that we're talking about, is the lowest hanging fruit. Because if we think about it, 20% of the things you guys are doing every single day, again and again and again, probably represent 80% of your revenue, without a doubt. The hardest part, where do you start? Where do you start? So that's why we created the critical client flow. So you can see, right, where do we start working our way through? How do people find us? How do we find them? How do we meet and greet? How do we do a quote? How do we do the job? How do we get paid? How do we repeat it? That's it. That's a CCF in a nutshell. But we want to break it down for you guys individually. So do you remember when Dave talked about the I believe? I know the slide is going to be coming to everyone, but I'm just going to read through it. So business systems are the essential building blocks of a business. Your business is not broken. Every business problem is a systems problem. It's always the system's fault first. You can get extraordinary results by putting ordinary people into well-designed systems. Systems development isn't one and done. It's an ongoing way of being. Accountability, transparency, and measurement produce a result-driven business. The financial benefit of great systems far exceeds the cost of the implementation. The value of a business is found in solid systems that consistently produce desired results, and business systems are your most valuable asset. That is my belief. All right, it's not about the tech, it's not about the tools, it's not about the fancy CRMs, the fancy Asanas, and all of those other bits and pieces that we all keep subscribing to that are helping your business. It starts with you, it starts with your belief, it starts with if I could just say, I want to record that and document it so that person stops asking me again and again and again how to do something, right? That's where we want to start. Now, we all know the 5 tools of business systems, right? We all have it. You might be using different ones for your particular industry. You know, you might have it, but everyone has an Office suite. Is everyone using Google or Office? If there's anything else, it just means that you don't like Google or Microsoft and you've gone your own way, okay? Your Office suite. So if you think about your systems, how are you using your emails? How are you using your calendars? How are you using your Office suite? How do we record that? Here's how we send an email. Here's how we respond to emails. This is autoresponders. Like, that's your system when it comes to your Office suite. Your finance, your bookkeeping. How do we do an invoice? This is the process of how we do an invoice. This is the process of how we do a purchase order. This is the process of how we do a quote. Like, once you start running through that process, you've discovered that your finance department is getting fulfilled. Right? At which point of the CCF do you come across finance? When you send an invoice or you do get, like a deposit, that's typically coming straight from Xero or MYOB or QuickBooks or something. Your project management. We've all heard of ClickUp, Asana, Monday. It just goes on. The list goes on. Some things are popping up every week. The CRM, Pipedrive, HubSpot, Go High Level. There's so many CRMs out there. Again, these things are popping up every single week, and it's challenging to keep up with it. But we don't want to focus on the tech. We want to focus on the why. Why are we using project management? Why are we using a CRM? The Office suite, the finance, the systems management, there's System Hub, there's Trainual, there's plenty that are out there. But you could use Google Drive. You could use Dropbox. Once you collect the documentation from a recorded process that you're doing every single day, which is the 20%, where do you put it? Second, how do we create a culture where the team is actually going to that folder to find out how to do that process? Now, System Hub is a product designed by David Jennings. They developed it. So every client that I've worked with in the whole systemology approach, in the whole systemology world, we've set up a System Hub. Because you can have the videos embedded, the standard operating procedures below it. You can click through and save it as a public URL, so it's like a landing page. So here, employee, here's a link to the process. And then you turn that process into a QR code, and here's the QR code and how that process works. Keep it simple. The hardest part, and this is 75 businesses I've systemized now, the hardest part, as they said, is time. The second one, they're really shy. They don't want to be in front of a camera. They're embarrassed. It's the detour. It's a distraction. And then it goes back to time again. So I say things like, okay, so we have tech. Do you have a voice recorder on your phone? Remember on Masterminds how you want to record your sessions? Do the same thing. You're in the car with someone who's an expert in that area, and you press record and say, can you just talk me through the process of how you set up a tripod for a camera, whatever it is, whatever that process is. And they go, oh yeah, blah, 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 blah. That's a process. Okay, question?
That's like, I've looked at these before, and it gets overwhelming because there's so many cool things. And at the end, it gets to a point where it's like, I haven't got time to start learning how to do another thing.
Exactly.
So that's like, in my head, it's hard to...
Yep, that's a great question, because we don't want to introduce new tech. It's the last thing we want to do. We want to currently capture and record what you currently have right now and how your business is running right now. The only tech you'll ever use is a spreadsheet, and Sean loves his spreadsheets. That's it, right? So moving along here, we know that we've covered the 7 stages of systemology. The ones we're going to focus on today are define, assign, extract. So just to reiterate, defining is we're just going to define, if you could all think right now, what if there was one service or a product you could think of that you're doing in your business right now that you do in your sleep? Think of that first, right? You could think of what's a product or a service that you have right now that's causing some pain. Or you could think of, what if a service or product that we're doing right now is having restrictions from people, or we're having some issues with our team members not following that process, but it's the best service and product we have. It's the most profitable thing we do, right? That's the one you want to pick for your define. So you're defining the service of the product you provide in your business. Now, I've worked with Doug in the helicopter world with NT Helihops, Steve trains, the Brimbles, Brimble Rail, Amanda, solicitor. I've worked with electricians, plumbers, builders, you name it. That's what I love about the history of 30 years of doing IT support, is I've worked with every single business that's on a computer. I wasn't industry specific. The beauty of that is I get to feel the personality and what they're going through open-minded. I'm intentionally asking dumb questions because I don't want to correct them. So if they're telling me how they're doing something in their business, I don't go, oh, why would you do it that way? I know a better way. I don't do that at all. As a systemologist, I just listen. And I just ask questions. I ask dumb questions, silly questions. So they're giving me a descriptive answer how they do it. Because the systemology approach is exactly the same for every single industry. It's not varied. We're just capturing what they're currently doing. And you tell me, and let's turn that into a standing operating procedure. Okay? The assign, all we're doing from the assign point is assigning each one of those little things that happen during that process of that critical client flow. Who in your business could tell me the story, if they could do it in 2 minutes or less, how that process works? I don't want details, I don't want bullet points, I don't want your link to Asana or anything like that. Just tell me how the process works. We have this process because. It's important because, that's it. It's called an overview, right? The details are for what your project management software is for. Just tell me how the process works. In your mind, why do you have it? Because we want to make money. It's important because if we didn't, we wouldn't have a company. That's it. Stop there, right? I worked with Amanda on this. Took us a little bit to get that going because she was going into too much detail. As soon as Amanda went, oh, you just want an overview of why we have the process and why it's important? Oh, once you did that, we had an extra 2 minutes of story time. And that story is a trigger to say, hey, if you want to know how to do it, click this button, takes you to Asana. If you want more detail, click this and takes you to a video. But we turned it into a story. So this is how it works. But it starts with, where do we begin? That's always where it starts. We assign the department. So if we're talking about leads, lead generation, social media, signage for your car, signage on a billboard, signage on a bus, right? That's typically your marketing department. We do a quote, because now that person's called us. That's your sales. Oh, now we're actually going to get a deposit for that because we're going to start the job. Finance, right? We're going to do the job. We're going to do it really, really well. And we're going to do that. We're going to start with this, then we're going to do the job there, then we're going to finish it with vacuuming the room on the way out. Operations. Right? Then we're going to send a final invoice and get paid. Finance. So start with the 4 departments. Marketing, sales, operations, finance. That's it. Don't jump to HR. Don't jump to management, admin. Start with the beginning. Because if we can start with something super basic, The rest just goes, well, we're just going to follow the system that we created to make systems. Things will get complicated. Remember, we're talking about blue skies, everything's a yes at the beginning. All right, the best client, most profitable job, everything's perfect. That's what we want to capture first, low-hanging fruit. The extract part is now we're going to say, can we just sit down for 2 minutes and you can explain that to me, and I'm going to hit the record button. Sure, just tell me why you have the process and why it's important. Just again and again and again. All right, that's it. You record it, you document it. You should then share it with the team. Say, stop asking me how to do that. Click this link or go to that place, go to that folder, and there's a video, there's bullet points, there's everything you need to know about that process. I don't want to have to repeat it. I want to record it once, you can watch it 1,000 times. That's the goal. So that critical client flow, you can see we have attention. How do people find us? How do we find them? We have inquiry. How do we meet and greet? I can guarantee you that first box at the top, underneath those 4, phone, email. 100% of the time. And I haven't even said it. Every single client I've met with and run through a CCF, and I've done about 200 of these now. Oh yeah, they give us a call, or they send us an email, or they fill out a website form, and it came to us as an email. Okay, so that's cool. We've captured that. What happens next? So every industry is different. For a plumber, it might be inquiry, great. They gave us a call, filled in a website form, or sent us an email. The sales, we inspected the job to see what it was like. All right. We then got a deposit. We did the job, or one of the processes might be we needed to order the materials in. Materials came in. We ensured they were there. Materials got delivered on site. We did the job operations. We got final payment. And then we asked for a referral repeat. How do we continue to work with this client again? How can they tell other businesses about us? Okay. That's it. But those boxes end up in your systems assigned sheet. All right. Again, it's a spreadsheet. But you need to start somewhere because we're going to live from the systems assigned sheet based on your critical client flow. Now, everything you do in the critical client flow, that's the hardest. It is the absolute hardest thing to start with because you're having to think 1, 2, 3, ABC of how your business or how that system, how that process, and how that product and service actually runs. It's forcing you to think through the process. I bet you all of you right now, you can probably look at that and go, I just thought of a job that we do or a product or service that we do. And I can run through, yep, marketing, yep, cool, sales, inquiry, yep, okay, I've worked that through. We can do it mentally, but when you're actually doing it and writing it down and making sense of it to say that if I was actually talk about that process, what would it look like? That's when you start going, oh, why are we doing it that way? If we took that out, that'll save 10 minutes a day, which is 1 week a year. Or if we just add something in between that, that's going to fix that little problem that we've been having for 5 years. We don't know until you start thinking through the process. It looks simple, but this is the most powerful part right here because everything else is copy-paste. All right, by the time we get into the systems assigned sheet, you can expand on it, but we still want to think of that 80-20 rule. 20% of things you're doing every day represents 80% of your revenue, okay? So the next part, let's see where it goes into. We've got 5 minutes, so I think it's actually going to work out really well that we start with Steve running through yours when we come back from the break. Does that sound good? Because that way we can just do it all one. As soon as we finish doing I'm going to run through a CCF. The DRTC is a department roles and team charts. That's where we identify which department each one of those boxes fit into and who's the knowledgeable worker. So if someone was going to be hitting that record button and explaining that process in 2 minutes or less, who would that knowledgeable worker be? Once we identify that, we then can go to the systems assigned sheet, and that's the Bible. That's the place. You know when you look at a map and there's a little legend in the bottom right-hand corner? That's your systems assigned sheet. So every single time you're going, today's systems day, it's Wednesday, put your systems hat on. You're now going through and you're going to capture some processes. You go to your systems assigned sheet and say, which ones have we done? Which ones are we working on? Which ones we haven't even started on yet? And we'll color code them. Green, it's done, thumbs up. And in a Google Zoom world, we do virtual high five and say, well done, that was great. What's orange? Orange means we started it, but we haven't finished it yet. Let's work on the orange ones. Great. It's black. Okay, we created a title, but we haven't done anything with it yet. We picked it up off the CCF, but we don't know what to do with it yet. All right? Or we haven't done a video, we haven't done a recording. So that's where we're going to start. So with Steve's, we're going to work through critical client flow, the department roles and team charts, systems assigned sheet, to show you how we found the data. And Steve's going to talk through that process as well, why he picked that for critical client flow. When we finish that, everyone should have a worksheet with them. So we're going to start with the critical client flow on yours. And we're going to take the time because I want everyone to do it. Because once you start your critical client flow, the hardest part is finding what service or product we're going to pick first. The second part is actually going through and identifying each one of those boxes, but stay high level. We're talking NT Heliops helicopter level above your business. Don't try to add more boxes. If anything, use less. Stay super high level as you can, so you don't go into the what ifs and what if it rains and what if they don't show up, what if the materials don't arrive. Let's not do any of that. We want to keep it super simple and high level. And then we're going to go through together, and I'm going to walk around the room and just help you guys, because I want this next section to be about you. And I want to guide you so that by the time we get to the systems design sheet, you have at least 2, 3, 4, 5 systems in there that you have identified across the board. And we'll go across what that looks like so that we can pick 1 or 2 and actually do a recording of that process. And it's just on your own. You can go into the next room if you want to and just do a little 30-second to 2-minute little video on that process. Or you can do it right here. It's up to you. But we're going to have a link that you can send it to. And I think once you send that link across, I'm going to go through it, and I'm actually going to systemize and write a standard operating procedure for each one and show you what it looks like. And yep, we're going to use tech. We're going to use AI. We're going to go crazy with it. And I'm going to show you how I did it. Okay? But then today I'm going to show you an example of Steve's, but tonight you're going to get those recordings, and tomorrow, during the day at some point, I'll email you, or we'll have a folder somewhere that's going to actually show you what that standard operating procedure looked like from your video. Okay? So any questions so far? And if there's any more questions you thought of when Dave was up there, let me know, because I'm happy to answer any of the questions that you may have had during that process with Dave. Anyone? Scary? No? So I'm trying to keep it simple, and I want to make it clear, because Dave covered the psychology around the systemology. He covered the whys and all of that. I want to bring it right down and keep it super basic, okay? So if that's it, no other questions at all? No? Cool. Yep. Heidi, again, cool. I want this to be Q&A. I want it to be open, because the more questions you can ask, the more answers I'll think of that I didn't think of even saying naturally, okay?
I want to say the SORRY word, but I'm not allowed to.
Because you're not.
Because I don't quite get it. So you want us to pick a job, a task that we do?
Yep, just one.
Just one?
Yep. One service that you provide. If I went to your website, services, and there's a drop-down, pick one of those.
Copy. Thank you.
Cool. Okay. So how are we doing on time? It's time. We're good. Spot on. So we're having a 30-minute break. Is that right? All
Correct.
Good? Beautiful. Now everyone go away and come back in 30 minutes. And I'll be still here waiting for you. Cool. So Heidi asked a great question before with regards to the client type or the target client that's there. So as we work our way through this, I'm just going to start from top to bottom, and please ask questions. Put your hand up, yell it out, and I'll repeat your question if we need to capture it on a mic. The target client can be an actual client that you're working with, or it can be a client type, an industry type that you're working with. So if you're a plumber, you might put residential, commercial, strata. There might be a different type of client you're working with for that particular service. So, but if you can think of one client that you work with that is an example for this exercise, then put the client's name down. Just put the company name down. And the service can be a service or a product. Or as Sean says, a product is a service. Just put in something simple, something really basic. This is just an exercise to start with. So once we work our way through, this blank CCF now, we actually have populated with Steve's business and Steve's rail confidence. So Steve, if you want to just firstly introduce yourself, give us an overview of your company, and also how Systemology has helped your business over the last couple of years. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Steve Muscat, for those of you that don't know me, and for those of you that do know me, I'm still Steve Muscat. So, hello. So my business is an engineering consultancy. Well, what does that mean? You essentially come to us for advice with regards to engineering problems, and the problems we focus on are related to trains. So if you own a train or you ride a train that has some problems, we essentially go in there and say, fix this, do that, pay this, ask for that. So how Systemology has helped me in my business, I thought it couldn't, to be honest. I thought what we do is too specialist, too technical. And it helped me realise that it is no different from any other business out there. I didn't know how to systemise it. I didn't know what to do. But Rob ended up being my who rather than my how. He showed me the process of how to go through this, and then in turn, I've showed my team. And a bit of an analogy here is everybody's got their role, very much like a plane. There's a pilot. That person's role is purely to get the plane up in the air, stay there, and then come back down. If there is a crisis in the cabin, as far as, oh my God, we don't have enough tea or there's no coffee, he or she does not go back there. That's it. There's a step chart. It's a checklist. Same in surgery. And you go to the dentist, there's only one person using the sucker, and it's never the dentist. So everybody's got their job to do, and that's really what this sort of outlines is. Everybody's got to sort of stay in their lane and do their thing. And
are you okay to talk about numbers within your business of how you've tracked over the last couple of years?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Go for it.
Oh, so I think in the last financial year, we've doubled our revenue, but we've quadrupled our profit. So we went from around about $2 million turnover, and by the end of this month, we should be just under $5 million. So we're very happy with what this has done, and it's freed me up substantially to start focusing on the right-hand side of that example we did today, rather than the left-hand side. But before I thought, I'm looking at this old, remind me what this is called, Rob?
The critical client flow?
That's it, critical client flow. And there's the person responsible or the most knowledgeable person, 95% is me.
Yeah.
Whereas now I'm the other one. I'm on the other side. I'm like, I don't know how to do this anymore. These people have taken ownership and driven it and created their own systems, albeit under my guidance to go, yes, I agree or disagree. But I'm very, very proud to say, I don't know how to do that anymore. Whereas before it was a chink in my armour, I thought.
Yeah, perfect. So you were the bottleneck in your own business.
Oh, massively.
Yeah,
massively.
Good. So what we're going to go through is if I'm going through a critical client flow with Steve. So we're going to ask, have a round of applause for sure. Thanks, Steve. So in a critical client flow, we would typically say, okay, Steve, so what would be your target client? And he'd pick an industry-specific client or an actual client. So we'll go through, and then the product, you want to just read out your target client, because that wasn't captured in the screen.
So as an example, we'll just say Transport for New South Wales.
Yep.
They own trains and they run trains.
Okay, and what service did you put in for that?
Brake testing.
And do you remember why we picked brake testing?
I think because it was so repetitive.
There you go. So is this something you're doing every day? You're thinking, yep, I can do this by myself or with the team or just blindfolded, whatever, okay? That was the goal, is just pick something super easy. So my first question to Steve was, how do people find you and how do you find them? So how do you generate business and how are you getting in front of someone to actually then meet and greet and go through the process? Like, what sort of things are you using? So the first box we put in was joint venture, okay? As we work our way through it, referrals. Now, everyone's going to have referrals in that top box at some point, for surely, right? Repeat. So clients have had a great experience, they come back. And from the website. So again, if you think about those 4 boxes, typically you're going to say, well, that's part of the marketing part of our business. And so when we have a JV, to record the process of how we work with the JV this is the process of how we work with joint ventures. We meet them, they give us clients, we give them clients. The end result is we make money. And that's the end of the process. That's it. That's what we want to capture initially. Because once we have that, we can then go, and these are the 5 steps in which we do that. Here's the emails that we use, and here's the autoresponder emails that we use. Like you use examples of templates and emails and videos and pictures and drawings and PDFs and whatever you want to add to it. We just want a simple overview to start with. So referrals, we've done that before. Referral, client has great experience, they tell someone else about it, they refer them to us. That's the end of the process. Repeat, client has a great experience, they come back and get some more. 5 seconds. I just gave you an overview of the process. But that's where we want to start. Don't overcomplicate it by going, oh, well, we have this system in place and we use Asana for that and ClickUp for this, and forget about the tech stack. Just tell me the story as if you're explaining it to a 15-year-old kid who knows nothing about your business and you're about to hire them tomorrow. That's the language we want to use. Because imagine turning that process into a learning track for onboarding. You want to dumb it down, simplify it so much that you're explaining it super easy so that 15-year-old kid who doesn't even know what industry you're in can actually start that job tomorrow, okay? So we've covered that part of it, of how you find people, how you find us, and you can add boxes if you want to, and you can have one box filled in. It's no right or wrong. This is just an exercise. So then when we said, what is the first step? When you meet these people and you've had this interaction with them, they typically find you by an email. So one of your team gets an email saying, hey, I got a referral from you, or I want to join JV with you, or whatever. It's going to be a phone call, or they're going to reach out. You might be at a networking event on trains, and you're going to meet someone, because you've actually gone out of your way to go and meet other potential clients. So as Sean always says, if there was one more thing, what would it be? That's the question I ask in every one of these boxes. So if we go, nope, it actually moves into the next stage. Now we're going from inquiry into sales. So you can see the vertical line running through. So now we're having a discussion and having a job review. Again, it sounds so basic, but it's pretty much every industry does that. Hi, how you going? We want to work with you. Great, let's sit down and have a conversation. Let's review it, okay? So what happens next? We do a proposal. Great. Remember, it's all yeses, blue skies. Everyone showed up for work. All the materials arrived. It's the perfect scenario. So of course you're going to do a proposal. And of course they're going to say yes to it, because it's the best job you've ever done. It's the best price and the most profitable job you've ever done, working with the best client. They signed it, they got a purchase order, and you got an email confirmation. It wasn't, oh, but what if? We didn't cover the what ifs. It was all very positive. So Steve, what happens next? We create a job number. We create the job folder structure. So now we're getting more into operations stuff. We got the job. They said yes to the proposal. They signed it off. We're actually doing operational stuff now. We're now talking more into the what happens when we start it. We have an induction. We have planning. We have safety. So we're just using 1 or 2 words. And you can put 3 or 4 in there if it's going to fit into the box, but don't overthink it, because we can break it down later when we get to that systems assign sheet. Next stage, job delivery. So we're just doing the job. All right, simple as that. After that, job completion, job sign-off, report, doer, checker, approver. Now, we know that that box right there has probably 3 or 4 or 5 processes in it. That's okay. We just don't want to make it 20 at this point. We'll get to that later. When we get to the systems assign sheet, you can keep inserting lines in your spreadsheet. Not important. We just want to stay in the helicopter view for now. Invoiced. So final invoice, we get paid. That's it. I said to Steve, do you go back and get like a Google review? It's like, no, because we don't do that right now. We're only capturing what we're currently doing, not what we wish we could be doing. Because this is where a lot of businesses get stuck. It's like, well, that's a great process, but we're not doing that. But maybe we should. Well, let's start this process when we start doing that process. Now you've just put a detour and a roadblock of completing just the basic part of it. So once we get this critical client flow through done, this is actually the hardest part of the whole process. This took us 2 or 3 hours to get this done. Because Steve was like, yeah, but whatever, I got these things. And it's like, just keep going higher. Just keep going higher, right? You'll see that in your worksheets, there's page 2 after the critical client flow. And that's what's called the DRTC, or the Department Roles and Team Charts. Now, all we're simply doing in there, and you're going to be doing this on your own, and Jesse, don't go too far ahead, overachiever. So we want to basically keep this into exactly the same wording. You're going to be copying and pasting into this Department Responsibilities Team Charts, DRTC, okay? So when we look at that CCF, it'd be great if we had one CCF there and one here, because you can refer to it, but you know the boxes that are there. All we're doing with the DRTC is identifying the departments. So if we know those boxes at the top were marketing, then we got into sales, then we went into operations, then we went into finance. Simple as that. We're not going any further than that. Keeping it super simple. We're going to write those departments down right there. So I'll just work our way across and you'll see what I mean. So we got marketing, JV, referrals, repeat, website, and the knowledgeable workers, Stephen. That's our marketing department. We just copied what's in the boxes before and decided which department are they going to fall into and who in the company knows most about that particular process. Next, we have sales. Again, we're just copying and pasting the wording that's in the boxes from the CCF. Remember, the CCF is the hardest place to start. Email, discussion, proposal, signed off. Steve's still the bottleneck here, right? So we have to interrogate Steve, and he has to tell us the process of why we have this process and why it's important. That's it. I don't want any more than 2 minutes of a video you explaining, or a voice recording of you, or a pre-extraction form if you fill out a little thing, no more than a paragraph or 2 of explaining this overview. Operations, job number, job started, job delivery, job completion, finance, invoiced. Simple, all right? Thank God Brendan's around for operations, because we were able to hassle him for a little bit and give Steve a break. Okay, so this is stage 2 of identifying all the boxes that are in your critical client flow and bringing it over to your DRTC. Now comes the fun part, all right? Because once you complete these 2, you don't necessarily have to go back to your CCF or your DRTC. The systems assign sheet kicks in. We'll just go past that because we didn't cover that intentionally because we want to keep it super simple in the 4 departments. The systems assign sheet, David touched on this. This is your go-to. So this is where whenever I meet a client, we go straight to the systems assign sheet. We say, how are we tracking? How are we going? What are we recording today? We have it all planned out. Department. We're copying from the department from the DRTC. Marketing, sales, operations, finance. It's going to be one of those, right? The CCF name, what name did we give it in that box? We put it there. In System Hub or a system name, because if you have like referrals, you're probably going to call it inside of your process platform or your systems platform systems or some sort of process, like a referral process, repeat client process. Just throw a word process at the end for now. We're just keeping it simple, right? The description might be, and we'll use referral as the example. So this is the process of how we get referrals to get new clients. Knowledgeable worker, Stephen. Resources, so if I was to record you doing an invoice in Xero, what do you think would be the resource? Xero. So imagine you're going, we're going to meet next week, we're going to go through the finance department, we're going to go and copy and record how you do an invoice in Xero. So what I need you to do is get in front of your computer, go into Zoom, we're going to go into a call, you're going to do a screen share and open up Xero. And you're going to go, this is the process of how we added invoice in Xero. First, we log into Xero. 2, we go to the client. 3, we go new invoice. 4, we fill it in. 5, we hit save. 6, we hit send. 7, we exit. And that's the process of how we do an invoice in Xero. End. That's the process. You've recorded it. Have you guys ever played with Loom? Anyone not know what Loom is? So Loom is a recording program. You jump on your computer and go, you push a button on your Chrome or whatever browser. It's like an extension. It records you on video and voice of whatever you're doing on the computer. It records what you're doing actually on the computer. So you hit Loom. Loom goes 3, 2, 1, beep. Okay, this is the process of how we do an invoice in Xero. Right? That could be your example. Step 1, step 2, step 3, end. That's now a recording that you put into your systems platform. You take the transcript of that process that you just explained how to do an invoice in Xero, and you write it as a document, as a standard operating procedure. I don't care if you run it through ChatGPT or whatever you're using that's automatically turning that into a standard operating procedure. But you have a video of how to do it and the overview. You have a recording, or you have the bullet points and step-by-steps below it. Done, right? So everyone in here should be able to do an invoice, how to do an invoice in MYOB, QuickBooks, and Xero, whatever that is, in about 2 minutes, and have it recorded. And then you share that and you send to your new bookkeeper who you're just about to onboard how to do an invoice in Xero for our team. Just watch this video, read through the bullet points. Simple as that. So any questions on Loom or anything like that? Rory? Mike?
I'm sure you've got a highly organized schedule for today's talk, but is there any chance you could chat about System Hub at some point?
Probably not in today's session.
Fair enough.
I can show you though. I can do a full demo with you.
I'm ready when you are.
Oh, beautiful. Up at 4 tomorrow morning? Done? Okay. So we can see here we've got the description, knowledgeable worker. We've done the resources. We understand that if it's going to be a resource because you're doing a process that requires an email template, your resource is an email template. You're doing a recording of someone on a forklift in the warehouse taking a pallet off a truck and you're lowering it down. He uses a clipboard to actually write down the weight and scales and all that. It's a picture of that filled in form from a clipboard. That's the resource. It could be anything that you want as a resource, as long as something that whoever's doing the extraction today to say, I'm the knowledgeable person who's going to tell you the story of how that works, and I'm armed with my resources, so I'm ready. I'm not going to be going, this is the process, oh, I forgot that picture. I'll be right back, I'm going to get that drawing. So our job as a systemologist is to say, are you ready? Do you have your resources ready? So when we record it, when we document it, we have everything ready that we can use as an example of your process, video, examples, resources, templates, whatever that image looks like, we add that to it. Keep it easy, keep it simple. Capture method, Loom, Zoom, Google Meet, GoPro, iPad, iPhone, Android, I don't care. Does it have a camera? Press record. Just do it. I have more clients that go, oh, I just didn't have a chance to look at it this week. Why? Were you afraid to pick up the phone and point it to you and hit record? Yep. That's the biggest challenge. They say time, but it's actually just that breaking through. And I can guarantee you it's a snowball effect. Amanda's a great example. The first video we did, it took a while. And then 2 weeks later, we did about 50 in about 3 weeks. Because everything started with, let's talk about this process. That's the way she started every single process. And that's the way it was worded in every SOP. Let's talk about this process. Let's talk about this process. And that was the guideline that we used for everything. Because I said, just tell me a story of how it works. And you nailed it. Extraction date. Keep track of when you're running the extractions. Because imagine if you do have your 12 systems from your CCF that you're there, and you've gone through it and you've gone, I just thought of 5 more things we can add. And you feel free to add as many as you want. We want to keep track of when you did the extraction, when you did the recording, because if some are half done, you want to know, remember, we're going to use this green as done, orange is work in progress, and black means we haven't started yet, but we got a title. So you want to color code it as best you can. You'll see that we're using different color schemes. I did that intentionally because it doesn't have to be green as being done, or orange as being worked on, or black as being just a title but nothing done yet. But you want to be able to look at your systems design sheet and go, how are we tracking? How do we get the stuff that's orange to green? How do we get the stuff that's black to orange? And if something's really pressing, you might want to use red. It doesn't matter, but make it fun, right? Because if you're just going through and going, okay, we're going to start from the top and work our way down. Well, what if John isn't available, but Mary is, but Mary's in finance? Well, then you start with finance because Mary's ready to go. Like, don't be limited by the availability of the people who are going to be doing the recordings. Just work your way through it. So you can see here, we have marketing department, joint ventures, the description, how we captured it, the date that we did it. That link can be a link to your Asana. It could be a link to your ClickUp. It can be a link to your Monday.com. It can be a link to your Google Drive. It doesn't really matter. But where does the actual process live? Like, where are you sending people to find it? Put the link there. So we're not going off on Google Drive trying to find a process that you're halfway through. Trust your systems assign sheet. So when you click it, it takes you right to that process that you're halfway through it. And you know that you got to finish it. Because when this line is green, you're done. But when you go every 3 to 6 months or whenever your revision time is to review your processes, you look at it and you go, ooh, God, that's old. That software program has been updated. It's a new process. We need to re-record a new video. You change it back to orange because now it's not done yet. You need to redo it. You need to revise it, and you capture the version date. So every 3 to 6 months, how many processes do we have? How many are up to date? And how many need a revision? Or do we just do an annual revision on everything to make sure we're up to date? Okay? Use your systems assign sheet. Right? It's like your little Bible, your little legend that you're going to keep track of. Who's your documenter? In this case with Steve, it was Pat. I've got a full-time documenter that works for me. And 4 years ago, we could do 3 documents a week. And Pat was doing a great job. We got a pat on the back. We're now doing 15 to 30 a day. ChatGPT. See, that's the easiest part of it. My job is accountability to make everyone show up. I show up every week. Got my systems hat on, ready to go. The tech tools that are available nowadays is just unbelievable. 4 years ago, I was like, yeah, we could document that for you. It's going to look amazing. We're going to review it. Now the documentation part is the easiest part. Getting a client to sit down and run through a critical client flow is the hardest, right? Because they've got to identify what the processes are first. But the rest of this is so easy now that we're just going, there's a process. You've done a recording. Thank you. You've voice recorded on your iPhone and you talked about a process for 2 minutes. Thank you. The rest is easy. It just happens. So I've captured a couple of processes from each department. So you can see marketing. That's actually green, but that looks kind of green. So again, the same idea. Sales. Email inquiry process. Okay? Same idea. It's the same thing. We haven't added anything at this point from our critical client flow because we just wanted to capture what are the most minimum viable systems that we found, what is the lowest hanging fruit on a particular service, and then how do we record it, document it, and share it with the team so that they stop asking Steven how to do things and they simply have a link or a QR code or whatever that looks like for them to go in that process. Now, when you complete this sort of thing, and you have all this done, and it's in your systems management platform, in Google Drive, Dropbox, wherever you want to put it, doesn't really matter. You now have the tools to create the most amazing onboarding platform. So if you're onboarding someone new, you're like, okay, you have an apprentice starting. Right, you've done your policies. Your policies are done because that's part of your procedure. You've got your systems done because your systems for every service you do is right there. You've hired an apprentice. Hi, apprentice. Welcome to the team. This is our organization chart because we did that. It's part of our systems. And this is your employment policies, your workplace policies, your company policies. You're going to get paid every 2 weeks. You're going to be on a 3-month probation, and they're ticking agree to every single time they read through that, so they agree to that policy and that procedure. Then it says, as an apprentice, we've handpicked the most beautiful systems we've created over here that are specific to an apprentice role, and you need to watch the video, read through the standard operating procedure, click the agree button that you agree to. This is your job. This is what you do. And when you're done with that, you're now ready to run off and welcome to the team and do that job. Multiply that by every role that you have in your company, and now you've got your roles and responsibilities, you've got your policies and procedures, and you have onboarding done. And it all started from a simple CCF, because it started with this, and then you just got more complex. You got more detail. Let's go to product number 2. Let's do CCF number 2. Now let's talk about it starting to rain. Now let's talk about I've got one client, they've got a GoPro, you know those little GoPros you can put on your head? It's a little strap, and he's walking around the business site or the building site, and they're called Sydney piling, right? They dig holes in grounds. They put up the levelers. So what happens when a spirit leveler or leveler falls over? The first process was just using it, setting it up. So he's got his GoPro, and he's talking through the procedure while the apprentice is standing, putting it together. He's just talking through it. He sent us the video on WhatsApp. So we created a WhatsApp group. Every video he did on his iPhone, sent it to me on WhatsApp. We got it straight into Google Drive, straight into the system platform, did a transcript, made an SOP, gave it back to him. He goes, oh my God, that's amazing. Now we're ready to say, what if it rains? What if it's on uneven ground? What if it gets knocked over? What's the process of doing that? In the building industry, the plumbing, electrician, like all of those tradies, they're all the guys that we work with probably the most in trying to systemize because they're excellent businesses. They have, we decided, would be the best process, and this is helpful for anyone who's in the industry of having a job that you do, break it down into the 3 parts, pre, during, and post. So before we start a job, this is the process. We've got to order materials, we got to get the stuff in, we got to do this, we got to get the trucks ready, we got to get the team ready. On the job, we're doing this. Then when we completed the job, this is the post part of it. So every single process we created, which was discovered from the original systems assign sheet, was pre, during, post. We treated every job like that. Because now they went, oh, the pre is the same for 99% of the jobs we're doing. It's exactly the same. Do this, order the materials in, get it. The on-the-job doing it is slightly different because it's an operational component that's different than another job. And again, think of a plumber who's doing strata, commercial, residential. They're all the same for the sales. They're all the same for the marketing. They're all the same for the finance. It's the operational component that's slightly different. That's it. So again, if you can just do the 20% and capture the 20% you're working on, you've just covered 80% of the things you're doing every day. 80-20 rule for everything. So we've covered the finance. We got the other one there. Okay, so you want to record it first. I don't care what device you're using. Even if you write it down, that's still recording something. Save it, so save it somewhere. Systems management, project management. If you're using ClickUp and you're using that as your systems management platform, continue using that. Tech tools are tech tools. There's one every week, but just somehow save it. Improve on it. So once you see the recording, you see the process, you see what's actually happening in real life, and go, now that we started, we should probably do that again because there's actually more components to this process than we thought. But now that we got that far, 80% of it's right, but that 20% we need to redo again, so let's do the whole thing again properly. You start identifying where the little gaps are. Share it. That's your optimization stage. That's when you're sharing it with the rest of your team. Here's the link to the process. Please watch it. Please read through it. Understand it. And stop asking me the same questions again and again. Okay? So systems don't need to be fancy. And this is, again, I'm having these clients that go, oh, no, we didn't get anything done this week because I tried to set up a tripod with a perfect iPhone with the perfect white background. I wanted a plant over on the left-hand side. It's like, really? So you just want to be in front of the camera. Well, I guess so. Just do it in a car. If you're a passenger in the car, just do a recording. Just do a voice recording. Keep it simple. Don't be blocked by the fact that it needs to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you're just sitting in front of your computer and you open up Zoom by yourself or Google Meet and hit record and just talk through a process and stop, you'll find that after you do about 30 or 40 processes in a recording, nobody really cares what you look like, what you're wearing, how's your hair, what's the background, what's blurred, fake background, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter. It's the content in which you're providing and the valuable information you're sharing. That's what we want to see ultimately. Okay, so this is the fun part. And I will go through all of this together, but what I want to do before we talk about AI, because you kind of get the idea, Dave covered a lot of the AI in his session, is when we do the CCF, which we're all going to do now, right, for your own target client, for your own product or service, and I'm going to walk through, and I'm thinking we might have a 10-minute timer, if that's cool on the screen, just so cool. And then if you have any questions, just put your hand up, and I'll help you through it. I'll guide you through it. Then we're going to move over to page 2 and capture. It doesn't have to be every single one of the boxes from your critical client flow, but if you can, you'll get it. It's copy-paste. It's just rewrite what's in the boxes into that part. I'll help you through that as well. And then we're going to go to the systems assign sheet. Once you do that part of it, you'll see that when you record 1 or 2 processes today, just for fun, just have a bit of fun with it, I can show you what that will look like as an end result. Okay, so we'll start at 10 minutes. If you guys can open up the critical client flow part, I see Jesse's already done his, but we want 1 or 2 words in each box. That's it. Okay, so go for it. Okay, how did everyone go? Does anyone need any more time to work through that? You good? Any questions at all while running through it? How did you go, Heidi? Perfect. See? That's the hardest part. So now, is everyone ready to move on to the next part of getting what you've captured inside your CCF across to the DRTC? So I'll just show you that again. So all we're doing here is capturing exactly what the boxes said in your CCF, even if you want to shorten them down into even 1 word or 2 words or whatever. But identify, and again, don't worry at this point about the flow or the order in which they're in. You're just basically going, right, from marketing, these are the things that we captured from our critical client flow, boom, sales, operations, and finance. At this point, don't jump into HR, management, or tech just yet. If you're not sure if it's between finance and sales, just make a decision today which area that's going to fall under. Because sometimes quoting, some clients will say that's more of a finance thing because they can sign it off during the quote. That turns into an invoice. So just think of the way that you're actually doing between sales and finance. But operations is pretty straightforward and marketing is pretty straightforward. Let's just keep it within those 4 departments for today. So does anyone need any more time to run through that process, or have you already done it? So on page 2 of your little workbook. So if you were to pick one of those processes, even if you didn't get it all the way into your systems assign sheet, and you were to pick up your phone right now and say, this is the process of how could you do it? Just for one. And it could be 15 seconds long, it could be no more than 3 minutes, but I love the idea of keeping it down under a minute, because you're going to find that every one of these processes that you do for a minute is the kickstart to do 2 minutes, is the kickstart to do no more than 3 minutes. As soon as it's more than 3 minutes, let's do 2 processes. Because the person that's learning that process, their eyes are going to glaze over, they're going to fall asleep, and they're not really going to pay attention. We want to keep it short and succinct and sweet and fun. Okay, so hey, welcome to the team. This is the process of how we do this. Yada, yada, yada. And that's the end of our process. Ta-da! That's it. So start with, this is how we do the process, or this is the process of. Go through the process, and then when you get to the end, and say, and that's the end of the process. Introduction, procedure, conclusion. Think of it as a cheeseburger, right? You've got your top bun, your meat in the middle, and your bottom bun, that's it, right? Because if you have that process and you're following that system for creating systems for everything you do, when it gets really complicated and you're still using the cheeseburger effect, where it's like, hey, how you going? Here's the process. This is how we do it for everything. That's creating consistency within your business. So imagine there's 3 things you can do with your business that you'd love to do one day, even if you don't want to. Scale it, sell it, franchise it, or just continue working in a systems-driven business that you love that gives you the opportunity to disappear for 3 months and come back and the business is running better without you. That could be the ultimate goal. It's the conversations I have with everyone every day, even if you don't want to. Wouldn't it be great if you could? Okay, so that's the ultimate goal. So if you guys want to do a little video snippet and send it, we're going to have a link somewhere popping up. I think it's going to be, Katie, are you going to bring is there a little link on the screen? Oh, you've sent an SMS, so everybody should have an SMS of where to send that. So hopefully you'll be able to do the video. Now, if I could ask, if the video comes to me as like image 0362, whatever it is, if you could actually say in your video your name and this is the process of how, and that's the end of the process, and then hit send to me, all right? Because I'll know who's sending it. And then I'm going to run through that video transcript, it turned into an SOP, standard operating procedure, and send it back to you or put it in the resources folder so you can view how easy that was. And again, if it's 10 seconds, 5 seconds, that's okay. If it's no more than 3 minutes, that's better. But try to keep it within a minute, because that's the ultimate timing that you want to be doing this sort of thing for every single process, okay? So you've heard enough from me. Any questions at all? You guys are just raving. Mics are running around. It's insane. Is clear? Good. So yeah, any feedback as well from me, because I know Dave is full on, but he's great, and I love the guy, and I love working with him. But I wanted to make sure that I wasn't throwing the information at you at the same speed. I wanted to just bring it down and try to be as clear as I can with you. So if you have any questions at all, just let me know. But other than that, finito.